Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 24, Side by Side. Wenren-He's goal with this trip had been to forge a new sword for Yin Hanjiang, preferably an immortal weapon, or at least a quasi-immortal weapon. After trading for the broken mountain meteorite iron with his token and a promise to help Bailey Qingmiao in the future, he took Yin Hanjiang to the 1,000-mile ice plains. It should now be named the 1,000-mile fire plains. The field of boundless white from 11 years ago had been transformed into a sea of magma. Even at Yin Hanjiang or Wenren-He's level, they didn't dare to get too close to the surface, just surveying the landscape from high above. The wandering immortal of the Xiling Pavilion had been cultivating using the flames underneath the ice for centuries, yet was never able to find the snow flame. However, when Bailey Qingmiao collapsed in the ice plains, it instantly appeared within her reach. In order to find that immortal's true body, this one Venerable broke through the ice layer, and now without the ice suppressing it, the underground fires have transformed the ice plains environment, Wenren-He said. Even though Yin Hanjiang normally paid attention to nothing besides Wenren-He, he couldn't help but ask, why did the spiritual realm change according to Bailey Qingmiao's wishes, and why did the things she imagined actually materialized? Yin Hanjiang took out the shattered mountain meteorite iron. He still had difficulty believing that this treasure in his hands was real. What if it suddenly turns into mist and vanishes? Yin Hanjiang asked. Wenren-He saw curiosity sparkling in his eyes and couldn't help but smile slightly. In the beginning, heaven and earth were primordial chaos, and everything in existence was formless energy. A primordial god awakened in the chaos, and used his power to separate heaven and earth, becoming one with the universe and giving rise to all things. This was the one origin from which everything in existence developed. Yin Hanjiang had reached void boundary stage over a century of cultivation, and his ability of comprehension was actually quite high. He thought it over and asked, is what the Venerable One trying to say is that the spiritual realm was neither a palace nor a cavern, but a gathering of primordial chaos like the cosmos before the separation of heaven and earth? Is what we saw today a miniature version of the shaping of the universe? Perhaps. Wenren-He was unsure of his conjecture himself and could only give Yin Hanjiang an ambiguous answer. Then how come everything became dark when she opened her eyes and bright when she closed them? It's almost like the legend of the torch dragon who brings day when its eyes are open and night when they close. Except it's reversed. Yin Hanjiang rubbed the broken mountain meteorite iron, still looking at it with disbelief. He had remained composed in front of Qiu Kongxiu and Bailey Qingmiao, as cold and emotionless as always, but alone in front of Wenren-He, he had finally learned to show a bit of curiosity. This Venerable One does have an idea about that. Wenren-He hadn't noticed the indulgent smile that had appeared on his lips. The book stated that Bailey Qingmiao was a primordial goddess in her previous life and oversee plagues, disasters, and war. Everywhere her side landed, disasters would befall mortal beings, so she wouldn't have often looked at peaceful surroundings. If the spiritual realm was a collection of primordial energy that had been attracted to Bailey Qingmiao, it would naturally reflect her fate. Dark and hellish when she's awake, and would only be beautiful in her dreams. This was also the case with the book Abusive Love Affair, You Are the Only One That Will Remain in My Heart. It was just as one reviewer said, the author had given the female lead a primordial divine nature, the talent and luck to overturn fate, and impeccable looks and character. They had crafted an exceptional protagonist, then let He Wenzhou stomp all over her. Bailey Qingmiao could probably only have what she wanted in her dreams. In any case, the shattered mountain meteorite iron is undoubtedly real, and the 7-colored lotus heart will also certainly be able to heal He Wenzhou. Who knows if Bailey Qingmiao will have the chance to use it, though? Wenren-He said. Even though Qiu Kongxiu was now a wandering immortal, she could still return to Xianyuan sect after stealing a few of Shangqing sect's secret techniques. With Qiu Kongxiu's intellect, she wouldn't have any impact on Shangqing sect even if she stayed, let alone become a spy for the Xianyuan sect. Wenren-He had no ambitions to unify the entire cultivation world either, So logically he should have brought Qing back. The reason he had let her return to Shangqing sect was that he was curious what kind of changes she would wrought if she stayed by the protagonist's side. Wenren he was also quite amused by the way Qing went about things. What other cultivator would say something like obviously a magic elixir ought to be used on me? Who would save a piece of garbage like you, to he Wenzao? After Bailey Qingmiao had fainted, Qing was so concerned she wanted to retrieve her soul immediately, which meant she really was attached to her disciple, even wanting her to become the heir to her ghost cultivation techniques. With such a considerate master by the protagonist's side, Wenren he was really looking forward to seeing how it would affect the plot of the story. For now though, he had a more important thing than the story to focus on, and that was forging Yin Hanjiang's sword. With a bonded weapon, a cultivator could access the weapon's wisdom, and their understanding of the Dao would grow deeper. Wenren he hoped that after Yin Hanjiang got his new sword, he would let go of his obsessions and make actual plans toward his future. That way, if Wenren he truly died someday as he had in the book, Yin Hanjiang would be able to act rationally and wouldn't lost his mind. The chiming blade had its own awareness and sensed that Wenren he was going to refine it. It tried to escape as it was drawn from its sheath, but it was trapped by a cloud of blood mist. Venerable one! Yin Hanjiang cried, not thinking that Wenren he would sever one of his own arms. The blood mist that made up that arm snatched the broken mountain meteorite iron from Yin Hanjiang, and began forcing it to combine with the chiming blade. In order to craft a legendary weapon from these fires, human blood and souls must be sacrificed, Wenren he said calmly. Demonic cultivators would usually kidnap a nascent soul or above cultivator for their crafts, sealing the soul inside the weapon in order to make an artifact of unparalleled power. Righteous cultivators would of course not sacrifice their fellows in order to make weapons, but would capture spiritual beasts instead. Spiritual beasts were naturally endowed with spiritual power from the heavens, such as the Qilin and other beasts of legend. Righteous cultivators would take their inner cores, from which they could refine to quasi-immortal weapons. Although there were still some near-death cultivators who would offer themselves to be forged into weapons in order to gain a new lease on life. Wenren he wouldn't be using any of those methods. Whether a nascent soul or a beast core, in the end it was all just spiritual energy, refined into very dense and pure essence through cultivation. Unlike other cultivators, Wenren he's body and soul were one, and he no longer had a nascent soul either. His whole body was filled with very highly refined and pure spiritual essence. A single arm of a Mahayana cultivator was more than sufficient to make up for the entirety of a body unity cultivator's power. Yin Hanjiang wanted to stop Wenren he, but he was held back with a ribbon of blood. He could break through without much trouble, but since it was formed from Wenren he's other arm, he would just be hurting his Venerable one the more if he struggled. He could only watch as crimson light engulfed the chiming blade and the shattered mountain meteorite iron, which then dove down into the flames. Wenren he began reciting an incantation, and the mist that had been his arm began to rapidly absorb the power of the flames. A deep rumble began underneath the plane of fire as the lava boiled madly, shooting sparks high into the air. The heavens now sensed the creation of a weapon from power stolen from the natural order, and clouds gathered over the sky, heralding a heavenly tribulation. A burst of lava of frightening temperature spewed into the sky like a geyser, until it met the clouds above and clashed with the first bolt of lightning, repelling it. Within the flash, a pure black sword could be seen, slowly coming into shape. Wenren he ordered Yin Hanjiang, retrieve your sword. Yin Hanjiang forced back his anguish and charged into the lighting. He couldn't let the Venerable one's lifeblood be wasted. Meeting the second bolt of lightning, he grabbed a hold of the sword and a current of warm energy flowed from it to his hand. Within the blade, he could sense a will to protect him. The intent to kill and the wish to protect combining into one, the two in harmony without any conflict. This was Wenren he's cultivation path. When a legendary weapon was forged, it must withstand 9 bolts of heavenly lightning, each stronger than the others. The first 2 were silvery white, but the third one was violet. In order to subdue the weapon, Yin Hanjiang had to take advantage of when it was weakened by the lightning to make it submit to him while enduring the lightning strikes himself. In the silver-violet flash of the third bolt, Yin Hanjiang's silhouette could faintly be seen, sitting cross-legged in the air as the sword hung before him, letting out a high-pitched hum of resistance. There was nothing else that Wenren he could do at this point. He remained at a short distance from the lightning, observing Yin Hanjiang. Yin Hanjiang would certainly be able to refine the weapon. Wenren he had unwavering faith in him. Within the flash of lighting, a barrier slowly formed around Yin Hanjiang and the sword, protecting both of them. It withstood the fourth, fifth, sixth, and the seventh bolts without trembling. Each of the 9 bolts of heavenly lightning was twice the strength of the previous one. The first one was not hard to endure, but once it reached to the 8th or 9th, the power involved was already enough to destroy the 1,000-mile ice plains. With the 8th bolt of lightning, a crack ran through the barrier around Yin Hanjiang. The lava of the ice plains churned and the temperature high up in the air rose to a hellish degree. If a chunk of ordinary iron was tossed up, it would have melted in midair and vanished into the sea of flame below without a trace. In order to destroy this new immortal weapon, thunderclouds gathered from 100 li around, now glowing violet, gathering power for the 9th strike. There was no way Yin Hanjiang's barrier would be able to withstand this one. If he could not subdue the sword before then, they would both be reduced to ash by the bolt of violet lighting. Yin Hanjiang did all he could to communicate with the sword, asking it to become his. He conveyed his good intent to it, his intent to protect his venerable one, but the sword ignored him. It only wanted to charge out of the barrier and escape the control of heaven. Why was it unwilling to submit to him? The sword was forged from Wenren he's own blood and soul and had inherited a portion of his path of slaughter. When Yin Hanjiang told it of his wish to protect Wenren he, why did it not obey? Yin Hanjiang couldn't figure it out. Meanwhile, the barrier couldn't withstand the pressure of the next bolt of lightning anymore and shattered completely, leaving Yin Hanjiang and the disobedient sword undefended under the storm clouds. He had no control over the sword, which wanted to charge toward the clouds and clash head-on with the heavenly lightning. Yin Hanjiang grabbed the sword and managed to force it down. The will of the sword flooded his mind. He heard it chant endlessly, "Battle! Battle!" It wanted battle. The fighting intent led Yin Hanjiang to remember a scene at the border town, when he was 18, watching from a distance as his venerable one led his troops into the bloodbath of battle like a mortal man as all of his cultivation were suppressed. Wenren he disregarded his own safety with every attack, and even if a spear pierced his shoulder, his halberd would never slow down. Yin Hanjiang naively stood before his venerable one, wanting to be his sword, wanting to protect him, but Wenren he wielded a halberd. He had said to Yin Hanjiang, "This venerable one doesn't need you to protect him." What meaning was there in Yin Hanjiang's life, aside from protecting his venerable one? The 9th bolt of lightning became a violet dragon, roaring and coiling around Yin Hanjiang. As Wenren he watched, he raised a hand slightly but eventually lowered it again. If he were to help, Yin Hanjiang would never be able to overcome his inner demons. Wenren he had said before that he didn't mind Yin Hanjiang dying for him, but he did mind Yin Hanjiang losing his mind over him. The devil Venerable had witnessed death many times, and neither his death nor his subordinates' deaths mattered to him. He only wanted to die on his own terms, after expending all his strength and leaving behind no regrets. He hoped that Yin Hanjiang would understand that what he wanted wasn't an obedient puppet and a blindly loyal subordinate. He needed a vanguard who would charge with him into the enemy's ranks, a sharp blade who would cut down all opposition. Yin Hanjiang, will you be able to understand? The violet lightning had already completely engulfed Yin Hanjiang. Wenren he saw his silhouette vanished and wondered if this was as far as he could come. Suddenly, a metallic sound rang out from within the lightning, and a sword flash slashed through it, surging toward the heavens, charging into the storm and resembling a black dragon that thrashed within the clouds. After a flurry of other sword flashes, the storm clouds dissipated. Yin Hanjiang's clothes were tattered and he held a sword in one hand, raised toward the clouds as it had cleaved in one strike. Its blade, hilt, and tassel were all pure black, blade sparkling with points of light like stars. Wenren he heard Yin Hanjiang say in a low voice, "Your name is the army-crushing sword." Alcade shone brilliantly in the night sky overhead. The army-crushing sword hummed ceaselessly, and when Wenren he summoned his 7-killing halberd, it began shaking of its own accord. It was out of happiness. Happiness that a weapon which understood it completely had been born, happiness that there was finally a companion that could advance with it side by side and surmount the heavens. There were no shortcuts on the path of cultivation. If they had made it their resolution to rebel against heaven, then they must abandon their human bodies and become gods. On this path, no one needed a protector. They only need to fight against the way of heaven with their own strength. Yin Hanjiang slowly flew back to Wenrenhe's side, his eyes unreadable. He didn't kneel and instead, he faced Wenrenhe directly as he spoke in a clear voice, "Yin Hanjiang understands. No longer this subordinate, just Yin Hanjiang." Wenrenhe laughed out loud in joy, and the 7-killing halberd touched its blade to the army-crushing sword, humming non-stop. Pleased, Wenrenhe said, "This venerable one is glad to have another person in the world who can fight alongside him." Yin Hanjiang also smiled faintly. He had finally managed to live up to his venerable one's wishes. Upon subduing the army-crushing sword, his sword intent also became stronger. Wenrenhe didn't need Yin Hanjiang to protect him. What Wenrenhe needed was someone who could stand back to back with him, wielding a weapon alongside him as they charged down the path of defying heaven, slaying even gods and Buddhas in their way. Wenrenhe released the 7-killing halberd and let it and the army-crashing sword start fighting and chasing each other. He faced Yin Hanjiang and gripped his hand in his. With both their hands wrapped into a fist, an unspoken oath was formed in their eyes. They looked up at the sky together, seeing Polis and Alcade mirror each other in brilliance, both shining with greater strength than ever before. However, DeVe was also radiant, nearly drowning out Polis and Alcade's light. Wenrenhe shared a glance with Yin Hanjiang. What had happened to Shu Yanyan that her fortunes had increased that much? Speaking of which, since the Great Sect War, he hadn't returned to the Xianyuan sect for a whole year. Who knew what state it was in now? End chapter. Devil Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 25, Insubordination. Wenrenhe had originally planned to go kidnap Zhongli Qian after refining the immortal sword. However, seeing the brilliantly shining DeVe in the sky, he was abruptly reminded that he had a sect to run. Xianyuan sect had sustained heavy losses from the Great Sect War, with many experts having died and been sent on. Out of the 4 hall masters, 3 were severely injured and the 4th had run off to Shangqing sect to become a wandering immortal. With the left protector and the sect master missing, the only person who was still capable would have been the right protector. Come to think of it, even if this venerable one captured Zhongli Qian, I still need a place to imprison him, Wenrenhe said. The right protector knows more on matters of love than we do, so the matter of making Zhongli Qian fall in love with Bailey Qingmiao must also be assigned to her. Now that he had obtained his sword, Yin Hanjiang recognized that he wasn't supposed to be the venerable one's puppet and instead must be someone who could help him and ease his burdens. He thought about it hard and said, the right protector has high ambitions. The Xianyuan sect is currently without a leader, so I fear that it has probably fallen into chaos. It looks to me like she's living a good life right now, Wenrenhe said, glancing at DeVe overhead. Oh well. There's still several decades until Bailey Qingmiao and Zhongli Qian are meant to meet. We have plenty of time, so let's return to Xianyuan sect and sort things out first. Understood, said Yin Hanjiang. Before they departed, Wenrenhe glanced down at the former 1,000-mile ice plains, whose flames had all but dissipated under the force of the heavenly lightning. Originally, the flames would have been covered by ice again after 100 years or so, forming a new 1,000-mile ice plains, but now the lightning had expended much of the underground fire's power. Mountains had been pulverized into dirt, slowly burying the flames and making it dormant. In their clash, the lightning and fire had filled the land with immense spiritual energy, enough to give rise to new living beings. Soon, the land beneath them would be transformed into a vast grass plain. With only a glance, Wenren he left in a flash of crimson light, paying it no more mind. Yin Hanjiang flew on the army-crushing sword and caught up to him. Wenren he had held back his speed for him, though Yin Hanjiang's sword flight had become significantly faster. Seeing that Yin Hanjiang was keeping up easily, Wenren he sped up some more. Yin Hanjiang urged his sword on and was still able to follow at a steady distance of an arm's length behind Wenren he. It was only until Wenren he reached twice his original speed that Yin Hanjiang started falling behind. It had taken them half a day to arrive at the 1,000-mile ice plains, but this time it only took them 3 hours to return to the outskirts of Xianyuan sect. Wenren he didn't come directly to the main hall and instead, stopped outside. Pleased, he said to Yin Hanjiang, "You've finally understood the true meaning of sword flight, as opposed to letting swords fly you." Yin Hanjiang's speed had always been slow, not only because of his low cultivation stage but also because the demonic sword didn't obey his will. He was always distracted with keeping it under control, which slowed him down. Sword cultivators are the strongest among all cultivators. Previously, you were able to exert power beyond your realm because the demonic sword was using you and not due to your own strength or sword will. Now that you've bonded to a weapon of your own, this Venerable One looks forward to seeing your true strength as a sword cultivator. Wenren he looked at Yin Hanjiang with encouragement. However, Yin Hanjiang only looked at Wenren he's missing arm, which had yet to regrow, his face rather pale. "Don't worry." Wenren he covered his shoulder with one hand. "Since I cut off a part of my soul, it will naturally take a while to recover. A minor injury like this won't prevent this Venerable One from taking back Xianyuan sect." Yin Hanjiang gripped his sword tightly, determined not to let the blade his Venerable One had forged with his own soul go to waste. He cupped his hands and said, "The sect array has been completely changed from before. This subordinate will break through and open a path for the Venerable One." "That's not necessary," Wenren he said, holding back Yin Hanjiang's fighting intent. "I'd like to see what Shu Yanyan has gotten up to these days. If we barged in directly, someone as shrewd as her would surrender immediately, which wouldn't be fun." Wenren he used an illusion to hide them both, and after making a circuit around the barrier, he found some people entering and leaving. They were all strangers to him and who knew where they had come from. Wenren he possessed one of them and entered with the group, quickly learning the new array password. He left that body without a trace and returned to the outside, where he opened a small entrance and beckoned Yin Hanjiang through. Xianyuan sect had no restrictions that forbid flight or duels within its grounds. Everyone picked fights whenever they wanted, and whoever was stronger got their way. Wenren he and Yin Hanjiang went directly to Shu Yanyan's cultivation grounds. It's a mountain peak dense in spiritual energy on which she had built a palace resembling that of a mortal emperor. Its inside was filled with bedrooms, hot springs, grass fields, and the like, so Shu Yanyan could cultivate wherever she pleased. When she wasn't carrying out orders or was out looking for promising subordinates to raise, Shu Yanyan spent most of her time cultivating in her palace. But today, not only was she nowhere to be seen, but many of her usual subordinates were not around either. Wenren he and Yin Hanjiang entered the palace and found most of the rooms were empty, with even the beds missing. When they heard someone was approaching, they both hid and saw Shu Yanyan's most favored subordinate leading a few underlings of low-level skill with ordinary looks. He ordered, "You two go to the moon embracing hall, you three to the star plucking hall, and put everything in storage bags. Make sure you're careful with the right protector's beds, you better not knock or bump them. If the protector were to get injured during cultivation, the fault would be on your heads." He ordered everyone around left and right while sitting in the main hall like he owned the place, eating from a plate stacked with spiritual fruit. Yin Hanjiang saw this clearly and knew there was only one tree in the sect where these spiritual fruit grew, and it was in the Venerable One's back garden. He wanted to charge in but was held back by Wenren He. While everyone else was busy moving furniture, Wenren He transformed into blood mist and entered the body of Shu Yanyan's subordinate. He said to Yin Hanjiang, "Disguise yourself, and let's go have a chat with the right protector." Yin Hanjiang considered using technique to disguise himself, but Shu Yanyan was a high-level cultivator and would be able to see through it easily. He was worried he would ruin the Venerable One's plan, and so he took a black ghost mask from his storage bag and put it on. Wenren He's heart skipped a beat when he saw that mask. He was about to ask when he saw several of the subordinates returning. "Master Helion," they said to him, "we've already cleared out everything." Wenren He held back his questions and replied, "Follow me." He glanced at the masked Yin Hanjiang and said, "You, too." Several of the men shot suspicious glances at Yin Hanjiang. Wenren He spoke in a harsher voice, "What are you looking at? The protector's new disciple doesn't want to be seen. Keep your heads down." There were some people who weren't willing to show their faces when Shu Yanyan first brought them in. The underlings didn't dare to question any further and hurried to follow Master Helion as they flew toward the main peak where Wenren He's residence was. They ran into Shu Yanyan right in the sect's main hall, wearing a set of lavish red robes and currently talking to another subordinate. They were in time to hear him say, "My lady, the 4 hall masters have all been brought to the main peak. What should be done with them?" Shu Yanyan pondered for a moment, then she smiled and said, "Let's see, Hall Master Yuan is too ugly. I don't know why he likes to walk around with all that fat. I don't like him, so seal his powers and throw him in the underground water prison. Hall Master Miao doesn't look bad, but who knows if he's keeping 1 or 2 of his bugs around for emergencies. I don't want to get bitten, so throw him in the water prison, too. As for Hall Master Ruan and that new Hall Master Shi, take them to my room for me to enjoy thoroughly." "Understood," her subordinate answered as they nodded. "Oh, wait." Shu Yanyan called. She held him by the chin and kissed his handsome face, saying in a soft voice, "I forgot I'm currently moving out. Take them to Wenren He's bedroom and stay there yourself, too. In a moment this protector, no, this Venerable One will take good care of you." Hearing that she wanted to use the Venerable One's bedroom for such things, Yin Hanjiang couldn't hold back anymore and drew his sword, charging at Shu Yanyan. Shu Yanyan's red robe was a top-grade defensive item, so she disregarded the masked man who suddenly appeared, assuming he was one of the Hall Master's underlings. She raised a sleeve to block, but the blade cleaved through both the robe and her arm. "Who are you?" Shu Yanyan demanded furiously as a spider lily bloomed in the palm of her hand. Her subordinate rushed to pick up her severed arm, which she could reattach after she was done fighting. "That's a strong sword, Will. Are you from the Heavenly Sword sect? How did you get into the Xianyuan sect main hall?" Shu Yanyan circulated her spiritual qi and spider lilies blossomed across the hall, forming a blood-red carpet under Yin Hanjiang's feet. They transformed into 12 heavenly demons, who seductively approached him. The heavenly demons could awaken someone's inner demons and destroy a cultivator's dantian. If one let their guard down for even a moment, they would fall under the demon's manipulations. Yet Yin Hanjiang treated their alluring figures as no more than clumps of dirt. He paid attention only to Shu Yanyan, his current enemy. The stars of the Big Dipper shone on the army-crushing sword's blade. Its black light filled the hall and the 12 heavenly demons were instantly nailed to the walls, the spider lilies shredded by the sword's aura and their petals drifting through the air in a flurry of crimson. Shu Yanyan saw in her adversary face the heavenly demons without wavering and decided to bring out her full power. After fully absorbing He Wenzeo's nascent soul, she had risen to the 5th level of Mahayana, and could freely command natural spiritual energy. With a wave of her hand, the flower petals transformed into red silk, which wrapped around Yin Hanjiang's body and immobilized him. The spider lilies were demonic flowers which would suck away the spiritual essence of anyone they touched. Yin Hanjiang had been plastered with them from head to toe, and his qi was continuously being drained. Wenren he sighed inwardly. Even if Yin Hanjiang had awoken to his own sword will, there was still whole stage difference between Void Boundary and Mahayana. It seemed his help was still needed. Right when Wenren he was about to jump in, the 12 swords that had pinned the heavenly demons to the walls flew to Yin Hanjiang, forming a sword array around him, ringing in unison and making the flower petals tremble. Within them, Yin Hanjiang made a hand seal, and the swords split into countless small blades, blasting the flowers away with their aura. The masked man leapt out of the flower petals, the tip of his blade aimed for Xu Yanyan's heart. Xu Yanyan wouldn't have enough time to avoid that attack. Even if she could dodge a vital blow, the sword would still impale her through her left shoulder. Gritting her teeth, she called to her subordinate, "What are you waiting for? Set up an array." Yet a cloud of blood mist suddenly emerged from Helian's body, and solidified into the shape of a one-armed figure, standing behind the masked man. Calmly, he said to Xu Yanyan, "Right Protector, did you have any problems managing the sect in this Venerable One's absence?" Seeing he had shown himself, the other also removed his mask, revealing Yin Hanjiang's frosty expression. Upon seeing the two, Xu Yanyan fell to her knees on the spot. "Venerable One, you've returned at last," she cried. The 4 hall masters were conspiring together, and only with great difficulty did the subordinate manage to bring them in line. End chapter. Devil Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 26, Tidying up the sect. Well, do tell me all about it. In Xianyuan sect's main hall, a black-robed man with one arm sat in the highest seat, his bodyguard holding a sword and standing at his left side. Several rows of people knelt below him, with the 4 hall masters and 1 sect protector in the front line, and their subordinates behind them. Each of them had distanced themselves from one another with the line dividing them in between clearly drawn. Hearing the black-robed man's command, a tremble went through all 5 but none dared to speak first. "This Venerable One isn't mad at you, Wenren," he said with his remaining hand resting on an arm of the chair, as he surveyed them languidly. He continued at an easy pace, "This Venerable One is just curious. How were 2 cultivators at the 7th level of Mahayana and 2 cultivators at the last level of Void Boundary all subdued by an average sect protector at the 5th level of Mahayana?" Seeing that still no one dared to talk, Wenren he continued, "Seeing as it's been over 100 years, you should understand this Venerable One by now. I don't mind if my subordinates are disloyal. Xianyuan sect is a demonic sect, open to all paths of cultivation, and everyone has always done as they please. I don't care if you cultivate goo parasites, seduction, ghosts, tortoise shells, or the pursuit of power. All your pathetic ambitions can coexist in this sect. The only thing that can't be permitted is incompetence." Hearing this, Xu Yanyan perked up. She still knelt as properly as ever, but her back straightened up a bit. However one cut it, she had come out ahead of everyone else at the end of this struggle, so she could be considered as the most competent, much more so than the 4 kneeling beside her. Seeing her straighten up, Wenren he remarked, "Protector Xu, you seem to have something to say." "Venerable One," Xu Yanyan spoke loud and clearly. "From the beginning, this matter can't be considered the subordinate's fault. This subordinate only wished to stop the infighting caused by the hall masters. Venerable One, you've given the order before that when you aren't around, the protectors can be your deputies. When I saw the hall masters fighting amongst themselves, imagine how disappointed I was. How could I not stop them? And as for bringing Hall Master Ruan and Hall Master Shi to my rooms. Venerable One, you know how this subordinate is. How could I not keep a little bonus for myself?" Wenren he nodded in satisfaction and said to Yin Hanjiang, "Remember what I said, Protector Yin? If we had charged straight into Xianyuan sect, Protector Shu would have deferred to this lord immediately, and we wouldn't get to watch this much excitement. Yin Hanjiang had never seen Wenren he acted so mischievous before and smiled inwardly, though he kept his face emotionless and said, "The Venerable One is right." Xu Yanyan's bluff faltered at his words and she could only try to change the subject. "Well, about this, you should probably ask Hall Master Ruan. If he hadn't supported Hall Master Shi in getting his position so they could join forces against Hall Master Miao, how could someone like me who had just risen to Mahayana with average abilities and some seduction and charms, take out all four of them?" "Xu Yanyan, watch your fucking mouth." Hall Master Ruan exploded. He slammed a hand onto the floorboards. "I backed Hall Master Shi? Why don't you say that one more time? Who exactly backed him? I must have been blind to work with this backstabbing pretty boy. When I get the chance, I'll fuck him dead." Hall Master Shi was a pale and sickly looking young man who looked like a scrawny intellectual type. Hearing Hall Master Ruan, he put a hand to his mouth and after coughing a few times, said weakly, "Hall Master Ruan, I can't accept being called a backstabber. I never planned on working with you from the start. You're the one who ran to me and started yapping about how you needed to teach Hall Master Miao a lesson, and needed to borrow my sickness chi in order to weaken his goo bugs. Faced with something like that, how could I not go discuss it with Hall Master Yuan in the Venerable One's place?" After Hall Master Shi had finished talking, Hall Master Miao raised his soft voice. "You still ended up going along with Hall Master Ruan's plan afterwards. You made all my goo bugs sick and let Hall Master Ruan smash me with his hammer over 1,000 times." Hall Master Shi coughed until a tinge of red appeared on his pale face. He said sickly, "Didn't Hall Master Ruan fell sick too? I was just following Hall Master Yuan's plan. He said in order to stop you two from destroying the unity of Xian Yuan sect, the best way was to let you cool your heads for a bit." The rotund Hall Master Yuan also had to cut in at this point. Squinting his eyes, he said, "But Hall Master Shi, you weren't supposed to tell them that I told you to do it. And you weren't supposed to let Hall Master Miao have the opportunity to have his bugs bite me. So, what if they bit you?" asked Hall Master Miao. "If I hadn't been hit by some idiot 1,000 times and was low on spiritual energy, I would have used all that fat on you to raise a new nest of bugs. With your spiritual energy, I could probably grow a king parasite. Hall Master Yuan, why don't you mention how you used your techniques on me to force me to make them sick?" Hall Master Shi retorted. "You're the one who secretly appointed me to the position of Hall Master and also made a private agreement with me, that since Wenren he was dead, you would elevate me to sect protector when you became the sect master. You also said that you stole a piece of my soul, that you placed it into a tablet and that if you shattered it, my soul would be damaged and I would never be able to reach Mahayana. I had to work with Hall Master Miao in order to get the tablet back, out of self-defense. You see, Venerable One," said Xu Yanyan. "Is any of this my fault?" She pointed a slim jade finger at the other four, her face full of innocence. "By the time I arrived, Hall Master Miao had been smashed into a pancake. Hall Master Shi was trying to take Hall Master Yuan's soul to refine it, while Hall Master Ruan was hugging his tortoise shell and cursing out Hall Master Shi, hitting him while coughing blood. As an acting sect master, how could I let them behave in such a manner in the main hall? Naturally, I had to punish them all equally, and make sure they were all disciplined." Wenren he nodded slowly. Protector Shu's words are reasonable. But this Venerable One must still request Protector Shu to remove the 100-meter-long bed from his quarters and burn it. This Venerable One doesn't generally need such a large bed. Xu Yanyan's face stiffened and her back sank again. She said in a fearful voice, "Venerable One, that's the 1,000-year frost jade bed. It took me many decades to collect the materials to make it. I can't burn it." "Then smash it," Wenren he said indifferently. "Do it personally, and take it out in pieces while this Venerable One watches." "Understood." Xu Yanyan didn't dare to speak more. Her severed arm was still lying by her feet, and she still hadn't worked up the courage to reattach it yet. Now that the Venerable One had started assigning punishments to them in turn, the Hall Masters also closed their lips, no longer daring to squabble amongst each other, and waited for Wenren-He's verdict. "Protector Yin, how do you think they should be punished?" Wenren-He said, turning to Yin Hanjiang instead. After hearing that these people hadn't rushed to find their injured lord and instead started making grabs for power, Yin Hanjiang was already burning with rage. He responded decisively, "Right." Protector Shu Yanyan showed arrogance beyond belief, taking over the Venerable One's residence and elevated herself in the Venerable One's position. She ought to have her cultivation grounds destroyed, her subordinates dismissed, her mouth sealed, and be forced to abstain from sex for 100 years. That's too cruel." Shu Yanyan cried, her head whipping up to look at Yin Hanjiang. She couldn't help but feel he was a bit different from how he was in the past. Yin Hanjiang ignored her and continued. "When it comes to the Hall Masters, as the Venerable One has said, their greatest crime is not insubordination but incompetence. Seeing as how they were so focused on their internal strife that Protector Shu could overpower them all in one fell swoop, they are clearly unfit for their positions. However, Hall Master Ruan single-handedly incapacitating Hall Master Miao and Hall Master Shi is somewhat commendable, and may merit a lighter punishment." Wenren-He was a bit surprised. He glanced at Yin Hanjiang and said, "This Venerable One had assumed you had no opinions on anyone else other than myself. I didn't know you got along with Hall Master Ruan." Yin Hanjiang pursed his lips and didn't reply. He and Hall Master Ruan hardly got along, it was merely that they had fought side by side in the Great Sect War. "Then let it be as Protector Yin has said," Wenren-He said, tapping his fingers on the arm of the chair. Since Shu Yanyan's mouth could still be of use, Wenren-He didn't seal her voice but ordered her to smash all her beds personally and burn her grandiose rooms within her palace. He also reassigned all her subordinates to run errands at the main hall and got Hall Master Miao to plant a goo insect in each of them so that if they felt any desire for Shu Yanyan, Hall Master Miao would know instantly. As for the 4 Hall Masters, Wenren-He decided that the incompetent should be judged by their fellow incompetent and let them all decide punishments for each other, and have the results reported to him later. Seeing as Yin Hanjiang had vouched for Hall Master Ruan, he let him off the hook. In one short day, Wenren-He had tidied up the Xianyuan sect, put everyone in their places, and ensured everyone's loyalty once again. After observing 3 of the Hall Masters release insects and sickness chi and so on upon each other for a bit, Wenren-He got bored and returned to his quarters with Yin Hanjiang. Shu Yanyan had already tearfully smashed up the bed that was placed there and cast all the pieces into the mortal world, which would form a rich jade mine in a few hundred years. She swore that the bed had just been moved in and that she hadn't had the chance to do anything on it yet. Shu Yanyan's facial expression while she was saying this showed how regretful she was. She regretted not taking the chance to properly enjoy it before Wenren-He returned. Upon entering, Yin Hanjiang was hit by a strong scent of Shu Yanyan's perfume, which had been on the bed. He scowled and unsheathed his sword, and the force of its swing swept through the entire room, clearing out the scent. "No need to go to so much trouble," Wenren-He said. "I'll just have Shu Yanyan personally renovate this place." "She's not needed," Yin Hanjiang said, fuming. "This subordinate will do it." Instead of stopping him, Wenren-He began inquiring on his experiences with Hall Master Ruan. Yin Hanjiang told him everything, including how Hall Master Ruan had hurled insults at him. Wenren-He raised an eyebrow and said, "Oh, I didn't know Hall Master Ruan had these preferences. I suppose we must satisfy him." "Satisfy him?" Yin Hanjiang yelped, his voice hoarse. "Satisfy him how?" Wenren-He saw his shock and quickly said, "Doesn't he want to fuck grandmas? This Venerable One would like to pick a maggot-filled corpse from among Chiu Kongxiu's ghost cultivators for him and see just how much he likes it?" Yin Hanjiang relaxed upon hearing this. "Hall Master Ruan has a sharp tongue, is all," he said quietly. And this venerable one is just going to scare him a little. Wenren, he said. My order that the sect protectors could represent me when I'm absent was aimed at you. In the Great Sect War, you didn't just save this venerable one but changed the course of the entire battle. It was Ruan Wei's duty to help you, so there's no need to feel gratitude to me. This venerable one simply wants him to know that he can't say whatever he wants to just anyone. Hearing that Wenren he backing him up, Yin Hanjiang felt a faint warmth in his heart. He stood behind Wenren he, watching him vent on his behalf. Chu Kongxiu's ghost cultivators had been taken in by Hall Master Shi. When he heard that he could personally pick one as Hall Master Ruan's punishment, he half coughed, half proclaimed that he would of course put every care into picking a suitable dual cultivation partner, and even went to Shu Yanyan to borrow a manual. The corporeal ghost cultivators under his command, hearing that they could dual cultivate with Hall Master Ruan, put their names down one after another with great enthusiasm. Yin Hanjiang. He felt like Hall Master Shi's subordinates wouldn't leave it at just scaring him. Wenren he was pleased upon seeing that the members of Xian Yuan sect had returned to their usual semblance of peace and were focusing their energies internally instead of going around causing trouble in the mortal realm. He returned to his room in order to focus on his readings. The book he was reading was, of course, Abusive Love Affair, You Are the Only One That Will Remain in My Heart. It had been about a month since they and Bailey Qingmiao had parted ways, and even with Chu Kongxiu delaying the journey, they should have returned to Shangqing sect by now. He was interested to see how he Wenzhao was doing, and whether or not he had managed to restore his nascent soul. As expected, the revisions had continued, telling the story from Bailey Qingmiao's perspective, the entire sequence of events from when she had left her sect up through the treasure hunt in the immortal spiritual realm. The discussion page was particularly heated this time and was even longer than it had been in the original work. Hold on, hold your horses. What did Bailey Qingmiao Sr. said his name was? Wenren he. How come my badass second male lead is now Bailey Qingmiao Sr.? Honestly, at that black-robed elder's debut, when he gave Bailey Qingmiao the flame feather cloak and told her to go to the 1,000-mile ice plains, he hadn't gotten any in-depth description, so I assumed he was an old man. He is an old man, Wenren he is over 300 years old. He just got a pretty face. Age doesn't matter for cultivators. The Xiling Pavilion Master was over 1,000 years old, but he Wenzhao still married her. 300 years is still pretty young in the cultivation world, okay. If the black-robed senior is Wenren he, then is the person who was always with him, who was given the snow flame, Yin Hanjiang? Oh God, the trauma. Someone light a lamp for me. In the revision, didn't Wenren he say he was giving the shattered mountain meteorite iron to Yin Hanjiang as a sword material? Hold on, let me see. Wenren he helped Bailey Qingmiao retrieve the snow flame for Yin Hanjiang, he obtained the shattered mountain meteorite iron for Yin Hanjiang, and he gave MC his token for Yin Hanjiang. Guys, I think I've discovered something big. What's inspired the author lately? Bailey Qingmiao and Wenren he's plotlines were all given to Yin Hanjiang, and Wenren he being saved by the MC was given to some elder Qingxiu who came out of nowhere and clearly has something wrong with her head. Speaking of Qingxiu, I actually quite like her. She's taken care of the MC all along and gives no shits about he Wenzhao. With her there to protect Bailey Qingmiao, the later plotline where he Wenzhao gets married and imprisons Bailey Qingmiao should also change, right? But the imprisonment plotline was her meeting with Zhongli Qian. If Elder Qingxiu protects Bailey Qingmiao, then how will Zhongli Qian get his debut? My young master Zhongli, you're my number one, sob. Oh no, I'm getting more and more excited to read this. The author hasn't continued after Bailey Qingmiao returned to the sect. We don't know if he slept with Lu Shimei. If he has, well, I'm looking forward to Elder Qingxiu. Also looking forward to Elder Qingxiu plus 10,086, that method of killing he Wenzhao and waiting for his reincarnation to grow up was wild. I stan Qingxiu. The story had only gotten to Bailey Qingmiao and Qiu Kongxiu returning to Shangqing sect. Wenren he closed the book and started considering how he should capture Zhongli Qian. Call in the right protector. I have a way for her to lighten her punishment, Wenren he said. End chapter.